So it's been a few days since my last video. Motivation is at an all-time low at the moment. I think that's just the time of year, Christmas and the weather. It's freezing cold in here still, but I've managed to get the arms pretty much there. The top arms are now painted. They were 75mm put in them. It's not the tidiest job in the world, but they're good enough. I mean, if this was a proper pro car, so to speak, I would probably set about building brand new tubular arms with spherical joints and all the rest of it. But for this, the purpose of this car, it's enough. As long as the geometry ends up roughly around the target I've aimed for, you know, that's good enough really. With these, with the upper arms, it was just 6mm plate in the bottom to create the extension, and then just fold a thin piece of sheet steel to create the top shape, just to tidy them up a little bit and add a bit of extra strength. I could put a gusset in the bottom, but I don't think it's necessary really. The 6mm plate is way stronger than the original arm was. With these, it's a piece of main hoop roll cage tube. I think that's, I can't actually remember the size, but I had a piece of that kicking around from making the cage on the car. The tube actually pokes all the way through. You can see that in there. Into there. A couple of big pull welds at the bottom. I've welded the end as well, you probably can't see it in there. And then another piece of cage tube cut in half, bent over the top, and then welded all the way around as well. Again, not the tidiest thing in the world, but they will do the job. That'll just give me the track width I need to create steering angle. The next thing I need to do is order some components to extend the steering arms. So basically with that, I'll just measure the thread pitch and the size, order a piece of threaded, high tensile threaded rod, and a extension, like it's like a long nut or a piece of threaded tube, whatever I can find in that size. Then I can wind the threaded tube onto the existing steering arm, wind the threaded rod in to create the extension, the width I need, be around about sort of 70-80mm, and I will weld that together, and then the track rod end can go on the end of the new piece of threaded rod. It's I used to cut them down in the middle and just weld a piece of tube to extend, but I found it's much better to use high tensile threaded rod and the thread extender, and then weld it, because you're creating a mechanical fix before you weld the ends on. So it's just basically stronger, easier to keep it straight and align it all. So that's the plan for that. So yeah, next stage today, tidy up these welds and paint these. Let's get on with that. So yeah, when I do these suspension arms, basically what I've done, I haven't gone too over the top sort of prepping them up for paint, because they're under the car. As long as you get all the dirt and rust and everything off so the paint sticks properly, I'm not overly concerned about the overall appearance once they're finished. Having said that, matte black paint on anything that's a little bit crappy or rough always looks far better than gloss. With the matte black paint, what I found in the past, seems to be quite porous and doesn't protect against rust very well. So I've used just some zinc galv spray on the arm before I've used the matte black paint, and that'll just protect it against corrosion. So yeah, that's done. I've got to wait for that one to dry. Like I said, the uppers are done, and I've just got this one to finish off. The paint has taken an absolute age to dry today because it's so cold in here. So yeah, I'll go off and find something else to do for an hour, and then I can give that another coat, move it, and crack on with the next one. So the other thing I want to do today is, while it's dry out here, the windows won't go up. So I haven't got a lot of space, but I should be able to get the door cards off and give it some power, get a multimeter on there, and just figure out why they're not operating. If the could be the switch gear that's dead, a fuse, relay, or the motor itself. I'll put a multimeter on the motor and press the switch, see if there's any power going to the motor. If there isn't, I think I'll probably just give the motor some power to get the windows up for now, just to keep it dry, because I've had a tarpaulin over the car, and when it's windy it makes a hell of a racket, so just be nice to get them up and get the thing watertight for now. So I think it's going to be a fairly obvious problem with the windows. That in there looks to be all scorched and burnt, which I think would indicate an electrical short. So I would say possibly the fuse is blown. So I'll get the multimeter and test that. So I've checked all the fuses and nothing appears to be blown. I couldn't find one that's actually marked as the window fuse, so I just checked them all, checked the fuses under the bonnet, had a quick look at the relays. Everything appears to be okay, but obviously, like I said earlier, I found this block is all burnt out. That's actually the ground. So yeah, I'm assuming this side is going to be power in, and this side will be to the motor itself. So I've just got a jump pack. I'm going to make a little couple of little jumper cables and just figure out which one pushes the window up. So I'm using a bit of welding wire and an old lead I had kicking around, so that's all I had. Usual sort of muddling through. There we go. And the window is up. That's one side done. Now I just have to repeat the process the other side. Even left space there, so that'll be fun. Well, that was a nightmare. But the windows are up. So now the car doesn't need to be covered up with the tarpaulin. That is an improvement. Obviously I have to look into it later on as to what the actual problem is and fix it properly, but for the time being I'm just happy that that tarpaulin is not flapping around. The windows are shut, the car is all watertight. When I get it in the unit I can trace the wiring back properly. I think I'll probably pull the dashboard out, and there's quite a few electrical gremlins. One of the pop-up headlights doesn't activate, the alarm immobiliser system needs to be removed. So yeah, there's quite a lot to look at when it goes in the workshop, but for now, windows up, happy days. So yeah, that was typical. As soon as I got out there, removed the cover and got the tools ready to do the job, it started raining, which always happens. So I didn't want to spend too long out there. I checked everything over roughly. I have got a Haynes workshop manual for the car, so I'm assuming there's another fuse box somewhere that I haven't found yet. When the windows went up, just using the little jumper cable, the wires got quite warm and the window went up slowly, so I'm assuming that the runners just need greasing. Maybe it's just drawn too much load trying to get the windows up and has popped the fuse, and that would also explain the scorching around the connector block. So yeah, that doesn't appear to be a massive problem. I'm glad that's done. The cover from that I want to use on the S13. For the time being, I think I'm going to concentrate on this thing because it is looking quite nice now. The track width extension will be complete today. I can get that all bolted back on again. Need to order them pieces of rod for the steering arm extensions, and then I can set about chopping the knuckles down to give it the steering angle. But yeah, it's coming together quite nicely. Once that's done, paint. I'm going to sand it all down and paint it, get the arches finished up. I did mount the front arches too far back, so yeah, I need to adjust them, but that's no big deal really. You know, they can come forward. I'll just weld the holes up. It's having body work anyway. Move the arches a little bit further forward. Generally, the wheels catch on the end of the sill or the side skirt if you run one when you do a lock modification, but with this particular car it doesn't seem too bad. I haven't done one of these before, so it's all a learning curve. You learn as you go along. So yeah, that's that really. Once the final few pieces are done on this, I still need the brake lines. That's something I keep meaning to get ordered, but just haven't got around to it. Once I've got this done, then I can get out in this for a few fun practice days, and then it will be an engine conversion. So between sort of the time when I finish this and the time I want to start on the S13, I'm going to get the Z31 in here and do a resto mod type build on that. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Don't want to spend too much money on it either. But I really would like to keep it. I like the car. I like the style of the car. I don't think I'll ever have the opportunity to own one again. So if I can recommission that, rather than trying to spend an absolute age doing a proper restoration job on the steel work, just basically plate it up. I'm hoping the S13 sills will be close enough so I can use them. Wide arch kit, because that'll remove the necessity to repair the rear arches properly. They're pretty much gone. But all in all, the car doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's gone along the inners. I can make an L-shaped plate for that and basically cut out all the rust and just weld an L-shaped plate in there. Wrap to paint the inside, rear cage. Rocket Bunny S13 arches, I would imagine, would be sort of suitable to fit. Try and make the engine run again. That'll be the biggest situation with that car. The S13 I think I'm going to leave because for the time being at least, maybe you know, towards the end of this year, I think I'll make an actual proper start on that. So for now, I want to cover it up properly. On an actual dry day, I need to remove the cover that's on it, make sure no water has got in. Then I've got the extra cover, I can cover it up a little bit better and just forget about that for the time being. I'm glad I've got the shell. I'm glad I've got that project to move on to once I'm done with these. But I'm really quite excited about the SLK. I think it's going to be a great car once it's done. Engine conversion now, I have decided what I'm going to use. It's going to be completely different to anything else out there by the time I've finished, and the power target will be sort of somewhere between 400 and 500 horsepower. So it should be quite a competitive and fast car once I'm actually finished with it. I would imagine I'm going to have to find a solution for the differential and shafts. I can't imagine for a second that they'll keep hold of that kind of power on a set of semi-slicks. So that's something I'm going to have to overcome. Probably 350Z rear end, I think it'd do the job. Obviously have to get under there, have a measure up, have a look, see what's possible, see what's available for the budget. So we're on a new day. The paint on the arms took forever to dry because it's cold in here, and I did sort of apply it quite thick trying to get it in one coat. Next thing on the agenda is to chop the knuckle down to create more steering angle. The idea with this is to shorten this section here. So cut a lump out, weld it back on again. While I'm at it, move the pivot point out so it's in line with the lower pivot point. This will cancel out the Ackerman effect. I'm going to try and aim for as in line with that as possible. So we have as close to zero Ackerman as possible. You can put the hubs on and take measurements and mess around trying to calculate what the correct amount to take off is. I've found it's just easier to work sort of trial and error. Take a little bit out, tack it on, put it on, see how much lock it gives you, and see if you need to take any more off. It's anywhere between 15 and 40 mil seems to work on most cars. Haven't done one of these before, so we'll just have to see where we end up as we go along. The arms are all complete, all painted. That's the final product as far as they go. Nice and strong, nice and clean, so when I work underneath it I won't get rust and dirt and a whole number of other crap in my eyes anymore. Obviously need to clean the arch tubs out as well. Uppers are done, and that'll increase the track width quite nicely along with the wheel spacers that are already on the car. I tend to run wheel spacers with a lock kit because it pushes the wheel out so it moves on an arc rather than pivoting from the hub itself. This just helps sort of push it away from everything and creates a little bit more clearance. I find it feels better as well. Anything up to a sort of 35mm spacer seems to work quite well. Anything bigger than that and it feels odd. I've had 50mm spacers on the front of a Sora, that felt awful. I have had 50mm spacers on the front of an MX-5 and that felt okay, to be fair. So again, it's car dependent upon the geometry and everything, I'm assuming. My understanding of this only goes so far, and this will create the angle we need and try and, by cancelling out the Ackerman, should give a higher mid-corner speed and make the car feel a lot nicer, a lot faster. If you've got one wheel scrubbing all the time, it scrubs the speed off mid-corner. Noticed this when I first got Weissfab on my original S13. The mid-corner speed went up massively because the front of the car isn't slowing you down. You can push the throttle harder and go faster around the corners. So a zero Ackerman setup is quite nice. It works well with my driving style, not everybody likes it. Doesn't feel so good in the wet, I must admit. But you know, there's always a compromise between the two things. So let's crack on with that. So the first stage of this is just to take a little bit of material out. Started with, I took the angle out and about 8mm just to get an idea of how much needs to come off to create the amount of steering angle that we've got clearance for. And the one go over centre as well. The Ackerman I've just popped it roughly in line for now. Once I've got to the correct amount of material out, so the steering angle is sort of maximised for what we have under there, then I can do the other side, tack that in position, a couple of straight edges, and just measure the Ackerman to see how far out we are and to see how much that needs adjusting to make it perfect. But that's a stage for later on. For the time being, it's just trial and error. Pop all back together again, put the wheels on and see what clearance we've got, how far the steering angle goes and how close we are to over centre. So that's the next stage.